you know, determine the different pieces, right? And what the different pieces meant. And then we use the table to help us combine our like terms, right? So now we're going to, and then we evaluated. That was yesterday. We did combining and evaluating yesterday. So today it's just evaluating. Okay, today is just evaluating. So you should have opened your worksheet in the Google Classroom in Kami. So in Kami, go get your worksheet, get it open, get it saved to your drive. Notice I did release one to each person, so you should not have to do the attaching like you did yesterday, which it looked like it was a little too tricky for some people. Okay, so let me get my worksheet up. So we're just building the layers. We're doing it step by step, building the layers. Okay, so we're in our activity number 3 of chapter 2. Open with Kami. I see that your cameras are off, and that's a problem for me. That's a problem for you too. Come on. I still see you even when I go into this mode. I keep the cameras going on the side, but you don't see them because you don't need to see them. Okay, so this is where we ended yesterday, where we were evaluating. We first had to simplify and then evaluate. Now we're just evaluating, okay? So we're going the next step. Let me go save mine. Remember, we go to not print save. Make sure that you put it in your Google Classroom drive for this class. I have more that I have to get through, right? Okay, second period. In the in-class assignment folder, in the teacher folder. So I have mine separated more than you. Okay, so we're going to be working with equations. So we're going to be using the equation editor for most of the activity. Okay, we're going to be using the equation editor for most of the activity. All right, so I'm going to look at my equation. They said 14 over C minus 4S. So let's look at what does that actually mean? What does this 14 over C mean as a math operation? Does the over meaning add, subtract, multiply, or divide if we're over it? Yeah, divide. Now, then it says minus 4S. So if it's stuck together, is that add, subtract, multiply, or divide? If it's stuck together, is that add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Multiply. Okay, so we're going to go put the things into the equation editor and go ahead and solve our answer. So get my editor, make sure I'm either blue or red. I'm still seeing people who are doing like black and stuff. That's no, blue or red. That's all we're doing. Okay, so this says 14 over, my C number is 7. Okay. Get off it, minus 4, parentheses 4. Remember the numbers we put them in parentheses. that lets us know multiply. Okay, so all I did was substitute in what the C was worth, what the S was worth. Okay, all I did was substitute in what the C was worth and what the S was worth. Now we're going to go solve what they're worth. 14 over 7. What does that mean? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. 2. Okay. And then we have a 4 times a 4. What's that? What's a 4 times a 4? 16. Okay. Then we have to figure out what that means. A 2 minus a 16 is how much? So if I start at 2 and I count back 16 spaces on the number line, where would it end up? Negative 14. Because when we have one that's positive and one that's negative, we subtract them and keep the sign that's on the bigger one. That minus 16 is negative 16. Negative was bigger. So negative 14. Okay. All right. Next one, number 2. Actually, we're going to go do number 6. We're going to go sideways. They've numbered it weird. Because it's easier if we go across and then slide the page down. Okay, so we're going to go do this number 6. Okay, so first things first, we are going to do nothing with that negative 5. So we write the negative 5 because I don't need to change it. There is no variable. Plus the 7, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put the x value, 5, minus the 2, in parentheses, I'm putting the 6, and then minus 9. So we didn't do anything to the negative 5. It's a positive 7 times what the x is worth, and a negative 2 times what the b is worth, and we didn't do anything with the negative 9, okay? So we have to solve what piece first. According to our order of operations, what comes next? What comes next? What piece would I be doing first in this now? Now that I put the stuff in, what's the first step going to be? Yes, the multiplication part. So we need to solve the 2 multiplication parts. We need to solve the 2 multiplication ones. Okay? We're not changing the negative 5. It's still there. What is 7 times 5? It is not 9 times 6. 35. Oops, the 5 got 9. 35. And then minus, so I have a negative 5, and I'm adding to it the 35 of the 7 times 5, and I'm subtracting from it the 2 times 6, What's the 2 times 6 going to be? 12. And then I'm subtracting the 9, okay? Now, it is not 9 times 6. There is no 9 times 6 here, okay? So we do each piece at a time, leaving alone the ones we're not working with, all right? One second. All right, so now we go down to the next piece. What's going to come next? According to our rules of operation, PEMDAS, what would come next? According to the order of operations, what comes next? Think about it. We talked about it yesterday. According to the PEMDAS, what comes next? And I clarified something yesterday about what comes next. What comes next? Addition doesn't come next. Subtraction doesn't come next. Addition or subtraction, like you read. Exactly, Brian. Okay. So I have to take it step by step, like I read it. Okay. So this says -5 with 35. So I'm doing addition first. If I take a -5 and I add a positive 35 to it, what am I going to end up being? What's my number? 30, okay? And then I'm not messing with this -12, and I'm not messing with the 9. I'm not doing those yet. You're doing one step at a time. Okay, so now I have to do the 30 minus the 12. Okay, now I have to do the 30 minus the 12. What's 30 minus 12? 30 minus 12. 18. And that's got to subtract 9 for our final answer. So what's the final answer? $18 minus 9. What's our final answer? 9. Not the 0, 9. Okay, so I know it looks like a lot, but we're taking it slow baby steps, one piece at a time, so we don't lose track where we are. Notice there are no equals, and we keep going on the same row. Each row is a new step. Some of the teachers in the lower grades let you guys get away with saying equals and you're going sideways with it. The only problem is your brain does not actually process math sideways. It is designed to process math vertically and read sideways. So for some of you that struggle, it's because the teacher let you put at the end of this equals and then just keep going. Nope, not good for you. Okay, so I'm expecting you to go downward and each level gets a little less complicated. That's what's expected. Each level gets a little less complicated. Okay, so we're looking. We're on number 2. Because remember, I'm going sideways. They numbered it badly. Okay, so I'm going to put in what I know for C. So 7 parentheses. What's the value of C that they tell me? Five. Okay, and then plus a 3 parentheses, what? 2. Okay, first step, put the numbers in their spots of the equation. We're not solving anything. We're not doing anything yet. We're just substituting, Okay. So now we get to solve something. We get to solve the 7 times 5. 7 times 5 is how much? Yep. And 3 times 2 is how much? Okay. We got that. Now we go to the next row. This was an easy one. What's the next row going to say? We get to combine like terms now. $41. That was a quick one. We like those. Right? And each level is a different step done. Okay? Each level is a different step done. Okay? Ooh, the next one is a little more complicated. Let's go do it though. First step, we put in what the F stands for and what the X stands for. The -6 stays, the parentheses stays, the 8 stays, and in parentheses, we put what F is worth. What is F worth? 2, okay? And then it says plus 2, and then we put in what the X is worth. 6, and then we close the parentheses. Notice there's 2 parentheses at the back because that one parentheses at the back is closing this one that came way up here at the -6, okay? Part of it is the notation, and it's important. Okay, so we're gonna go start solving things. For this problem, according to the order of operations, what's gonna come first? According to the order of operations, what's going to come first for this problem? What inside the parentheses, Brian? Yes, we have to work with the parentheses first, but what do we have to do with the parentheses first before we can start doing anything about the order of operations? Because first it would be grouping, right? But our grouping's not ready. We're not ready to group those. We have to do something else with them first. So what do we have to do first? What inside the parentheses do I have to handle? The -6 is still there. What inside the parentheses do we have to handle? The 8 times 2 and the 2 times 6, yes. So 8 times 2 is 16, plus the 2 times 6 is 12. Okay, we've now got that parentheses where it's ready to group. So we're ready to do the P to it of the order of operation, okay? So we have to, what's it telling us to do with those? How does it want us to group those? By adding them, okay? So the -6 is still here, the parentheses is still here, and we add our parentheses pieces to get what answer? To get what answer? So if I add them together, what do I get inside my parentheses now? 28. Okay. So now we get to do the last step, which is multiplying -6 times 28. So it's just 6 times 28 and put a negative in front of it. So on your calculator, let me switch sharing. On my calculator, I would just be doing 28 times 6, okay? Do not worry about the positive or negative part of it, okay? 168. We're gonna put the negative back in because we know the rule says that if I have a positive times a negative, the answer is gonna be negative. So this is gonna be -168. but we don't have to worry about putting the -6 in the calculator or the, you know, we just put the 6 times 28, stick the negative on it, okay? Questions about that? Are we okay with that? Okay, so now we're looking at number 3. What's the first thing I'm gonna write down? What's the first thing I'm gonna write down? No, I mean, what's the first thing I gotta write before I can start putting letters in? The -4, yep, because it's there and I have to use it. And then minus the D, 21 over the 7, arrow to get off it, plus the 9, parentheses 4. So we replaced the D and replaced the S with the numbers they told us they are. But everything else stays the same. We don't change any of the other stuff. Okay. All right, so now we start evaluating. What are we going to evaluate first? What piece do we have to handle first, according to where it comes in the problem and our order of operations? What piece do we have to do first? Is the -4 changing? No, so we write the -4. Okay, then which piece am I going to solve next? The 21 over 7, exactly. It's a negative, and we're doing 24 divided by 7. So what is the answer of 21 divided by 7? Three. But we put the minus because there was a negative there. So it's a -3. Then what piece would I do? Because I'm still on that row of the PEMDAS. The 9 times 4. Because remember, when we talk about our order of operations, first we handle simplifying parentheses, then we handle exponents, then we handle multiply or divide as you read the problem. Since we have a divide first, we did it first, but we still have a multiply, so we still get to do it, okay? Multiplies and divides all get handled in this step. What is 9 times 4? I know it's positive because it's a positive 9, 36, okay? Now we have to go do our adding and subtracting. Okay, I see a -4 with a -3. So what do I have? I see a -4 with a -3. So what do I have? -7. Because they're both the same, we add them and keep that sign. And then it says that I have to add 36 to it. Okay, so those are not the same sign. When they're not the same sign, we subtract them and keep the sign that's on the bigger one. The bigger one is 36. What sign is 36? Is it positive or is it negative? The 36. It's positive because I see a plus sign in front of it. If it had a minus sign in front of it, it would be negative, right? So this just says 36 takes 7 away. They just wrote it backwards. Okay, don't overthink it. 29. Okay, just because they put it in a reverse order doesn't make it a more complicated problem. Just stop and think what the numbers actually mean. Subtraction is a negative sign. Addition is the positive sign. Okay. Okay, number 8. We've got a -8. In parentheses, I'm putting what? What's the X stand for? 8. Then I say -6. And I say +5. And in parentheses, I'm putting what? The 9. And then I say +3. So I did not change any of the numbers that we had, right? I didn't change any of the numbers we had. I just went ahead and popped into the spots what the X stood for and what the R stood for. Okay, what the X stood for and what the R stood for. Now we get to go do our math. What am I going to do first? According to my rules of operation, PEMDAS, what am I going to do first? Yep, I'm going to do the multiplication. I'm going to do both of them. Okay. I'm going to do both of them. The stuff I'm not dealing with stays the same. So an 8 times an 8, and then we stick a negative in front of it. So it's a -64. I did not change the -6. There's no multiplication there. Now I'm doing the +5 times +9. So what would that be? +5 times +9 would be what? +45. Oops, I forgot the plus sign. +45 +3. Okay, we didn't change any of the other stuff, so it stays the way it is. Now we got to go do the addition and subtraction like we see it. So this says -64 with -6. What are we going to get? -64 with -6. What are we going to get? -70. Yep. Because all I do is add them together. They're the same sign. And I have a +45 and I have a +3. Okay. Now I got to do that -70 and +45. Are those the same sign? Are those the same sign? -70, +45? Not the same sign. So we subtract 70, take away 45. And the sign for the 70, because it's a bigger number, is the answer's sign. So is the answer going to be negative or is the answer going to be positive? Negative. So it's going to be -70 minus 45. -70 minus 45. What do we get? -31. -70 minus 45. I think it's going to end with a 5, right? So what are we going to get? -25 makes sense. Okay. Okay, so we have a -25 and a +3. Are those the same signs? No. So what are we going to do? since they're not the same sign. Subtract and keep the sign for the bigger. So what sign will our answer have? The negative. Negative how much? 25 minus 3. Negative 22. Okay, so we're just taking it step by step. Any questions? Okay, so now we're going to go on to 4 and 9. Okay, someone tell me, what am I supposed to write in my box? What am I supposed to write in my box? I'm supposed to first write the 24 over the 8. Yes. Then we arrow off and write what? Negative 4 plus 5 parentheses what? 7. Close it. Okay, so we've got everything stuck in its spot. What piece of this are we going to handle first? The 24. It's a 24. I see 24. It's just hard to see. So we're going to do the divide, then the multiply, because the divide comes first and then the multiply comes. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So 24 divided by 8. What do we get? 3. Minus the 4 plus what? 7 times 4. Nope, 7 times 5. I said it wrong. $35. Okay, so we stick a 35 in here. Now we're going to take it one piece at a time. That says 3, take away 4 first. What happens if we have 3 and we take away 4? What are we going to get? Yep, we're going to get a negative 1 because 4 minus 3 is 1 and 4 was negative. So negative 1, and then we have a plus 35 for our final answer. So what does that really mean? Negative 1 plus 35. What's another way we can say it? What's another way we can say it? 35 take away 1. Exactly, because it's a positive 35 and a negative 1. Okay, so the answer is 34. Okay. All right. What do I write first? What do I write first? The negative 5, exactly. So -5 parentheses. Then I say the 2 parentheses 6. Nope, 8. Pay attention, it's an N, not an H. I don't like it when they use letters that kind of look like each other because you can mess yourself up too easily. And then there's a second parentheses at the end, right? So let's go get that done. Now, what do we handle? What do we handle now? What do we handle now? Well, what do we do now? The 2 times the 8, yes. And the 3 times the 6, because they're both in the same parentheses and they're both doing the same operation. So -5 doesn't change. 2 times 8. 16. And then it says -3 times 6. $18. So remember, we do not, and then we close it. Okay. So according to the operations, what comes next? The 16 minus the 8. Yep. The -5 stays here. The parentheses stays here. And if I have 16 and I subtract 18 from it, that's the same as saying 18 minus 16. And then I notice 18 was negative. So that's why -2. Okay. So because +16, -18, 2 different signs, we always subtract big minus little and leave the sign of the bigger one. Okay. Okay, so now we have our final answer. Now, who knows? What does negative times negative make? Am I going to have a positive answer or a negative answer if I go negative times negative? I'm going to have a positive answer. Anytime you're multiplying and both numbers have the same sign, either both positive or both negative, that makes a positive number. Anytime you're multiplying or dividing and there's one of each, negative is your answer. So this is a positive 10 because negative times negative will make a positive. Now, another way you can think of it is you're taking the opposites of each other. So the opposite of being unhappy is happy, positive. Okay. All right, last 2. Someone tell me, what should I write first? Give me the string. Give me the whole row. Substitute in the stuff. Show me what we're supposed to do. Yep. 9 parentheses, 2 parentheses, minus 5 parentheses, 5 parentheses, plus 4. All we did was substitute in what was the C worth, what was the H worth. All right. So what piece now? What piece now? 18, and then the subtracting 25, and the adding 4 row. Okay, remember when we do this, we put the negative sign, and then we just do 5 times 5. Okay, next piece, 18, take 25 away. So are those the same sign? Are the 18 and the 25 the same sign? No. So when they're not the same sign, what do we do? When they're not the same sign, what do we do? Subtract, and then what? No. When we're looking at the 18 minus 25, what are we going to do? We're going to subtract, and what type of answer are we going to get? We're going to subtract, and we're going to get the answer that's on the sign that's on the bigger of the two numbers. So 25 is bigger. So the sign, and it's negative, that's why it's going to be a negative answer. If the positive had been on the 25 and the negative had been on the 18, we would have had a positive answer. So what is 25 take away 18? 7. And it's negative because the 25 was negative and the bigger is negative. Okay. Now we need our last row. Are these two numbers the same sign? No. So what are we going to do with these two numbers? And how are we going to figure out what the final answer sign is going to be? We're going to subtract the two numbers, and then how do we figure out the sign for a final answer? Which one do we look at for the sign of the final answer? Which one of the two numbers do we look at? The bigger number, and the bigger number was negative, so our answer is going to be negative. So 7 take 4 away, and it's going to be a negative because the 7 was bigger and it was negative. So negative what? Negative 3. Okay. All right, someone tell me, what am I supposed to type in my box? What's my row going to say? Am I changing the 2? Am I changing the 2? No. So we write the 2. Then what? Then what do we have to do? It says 2F. So what do I do with that F? Put the parentheses and put the 5 for the F. Yes. And then we say plus 6. And we put the parentheses that's all the way already there, and the 7 that's already there, and the minus that's already there, and the 8 that's already there, and parentheses 3, because that's what they told us the C was worth. Okay, so you got to watch out. You leave the numbers that are already there alone. You're just putting in parentheses what they said the letters were worth. Okay. So according to the order of operations, what am I supposed to do first now? According to the order of operations, what am I supposed to do now? Think about it. What's my PEMDAS say I should be doing? What's my PEMDAS say I should be doing? The parentheses. So I have to clean up what piece of the parentheses. Before I can go ahead and actually combine it, what do I have to do in the parentheses? The 8 times 3. Okay, so we're leaving alone this 2 times 5 because it's not in the parentheses. The plus 6, the 7, the negative sign, and I'm figuring out 8 times 3. And I'm figuring out 8 times 3. So how much is that? 24. 8 times 3 is not negative 24. 8 times 3 is 24. Okay, now I have to clean up that parentheses, and it says 7 taking away 24. So 2 parentheses 5 plus the 6 parentheses. Now, are the two numbers in the parentheses the same sign? No. So when they're not the same sign, what are we supposed to do with the numbers? When they're not the same sign, what are we supposed to do with the numbers? Subtract. And then to figure out the answer, of the sign for the final answer, where do we look? At the bigger one. So what's our final sign going to be? Negative, yes. Because 24 is a negative number. So this says 24 take away 7, and we are going to have a negative number answer. 24 take away 7, and we have a negative for an answer. So what does 24 take away a 7? 17. And it's a negative because the 24 was negative. Okay. Now we have to handle that multiplication because we finally handled the parentheses. We're now going to clean up the multiplication stuff. 2 times 5. What do we get? Two times 5, what do we get? 10. Okay, now we have a positive times a negative. So what's the sign going to be for that? Negative. Okay, so I'm going to put the negative sign after the 10. And then in my calculator, I'm going to do the 6 times 17. So in my calculator, I'm doing 6 times 17. What do I get? 102. Okay. So we put the sign first because there was one positive, one negative. It's a negative answer. And then I just handle the number, 6 times 17. Okay, last row. Are these the same sign? No. So when they're not the same sign and we're combining them, what do we do about it? When they're not the same sign and we're combining them, what do we do about it? We subtract them. And to find the final answer sign, where do we look? We look at the bigger one. So for this problem, what's our final answer sign going to be? Negative. And then we're saying 102 minus 10, because we always subtract. Okay, so our final answer is negative 92. Okay, so don't worry about, first you put the sign on, whether it's going to be negative or positive, and then subtract. Okay, so 102 minus 10 is 92. My final answer was negative 92 because the 102 was a negative. Okay, because the 102 was a negative. Any questions about that? Okay, please turn in your assignment. Please turn in your assignment. You should notice, of course not. That doesn't release for a few minutes. Going to release your assignment worksheet. So in the last, we have class for about 15 more minutes, and you are to start working on your homework assignment. Turn in the worksheet right now that we just got finished with, your notes. I've released the homework assignment. Get started on the homework assignment. Okay. The work should look like what we just got done doing.